If I'd have done all the things I was supposed to have done, I'd be really tired.
That your sweet love hasn't died.
Willie Nelson has just been revealed at the age of 91, and the sight is enough to take your breath away. Not because he's frail, but because he's so different. That body, those eyes, that demeanor, unlike anyone in their 90s. The latest image went viral, leaving people stunned. Is this a man about to turn 100?
Gotta go now.
No longer a country music icon, Willie is now living proof of the impossible. And if you think you know who he is, prepare to be completely shocked.
Use it or lose it, so I'll do it.
In June 2024, the announcement that Willie Nelson had canceled his tour stunned fans across the country. There were no reassuring videos, no behind-the-scenes photos, just a cold message from the organizers. Willie Nelson is not feeling well, and his doctor has ordered him to rest. For a man with a litany of health problems, COPD, diabetes, pneumonia, and who was 91. The absence was not simply a vacation. It left the entire music community holding its breath. The most extreme assumptions quickly spread. Willie was at the end of his life. This was the end. The audience would never see him again. Social media exploded with a series of worried statuses. Fan pages were flooded with old photos, words shared as if to say goodbye. A man who had fought against time for more than 7 decades, now it might be time to leave the stage forever. But all were wrong. On July 4, 2024, in the midst of a bustling American festival, Willie Nelson suddenly stepped onto the stage in Camden, New Jersey. No warning, no promotional video, no introduction from the MC. He appeared in silence, wearing a bandana, his famous trigger guitar slung over his shoulder, his body thin, but his eyes undimmed. That appearance was not like an opening act. It was a moment of silence that stopped the entire festival atmosphere. More than 10,000 people stood still. Some people cried. Images from that night went viral. In the photos taken by spectators, Willie leaned slightly toward the microphone, his left hand holding the neck of the guitar, his right hand plucking each note as if each beat was a test of his own endurance. His body was noticeably thin, his back slightly hunched, his legs moving with difficulty, but his eyes were still filled with absolute concentration and alertness. A clip from the performance went viral. A few days later, Willie sang "Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground" under soft stage lights. His voice cracked and cracked on a few words, but the melody still resonated with every listener. There was no special effects, no big orchestra, just him, his guitar, and his voice, as if splitting a memory in two. Listeners described it as a beautiful farewell without saying a word. The video racked up millions of views in less than a week. Along with the emotion was division. On X, many people criticized Willie's current appearance with harsh words. "Looks like a gust of wind could blow him away. At my grandfather's age, I can't even climb 3 steps. And you still go on tour. Respect, but don't overdo it." The negative reactions did not reduce the spread, but only made the music-loving community more determined to protect him. The hashtag #GetWellWillie quickly returned to the top of the trending, along with a series of touching images, comments, and handwritten letters, rewritten and shared publicly to send to their most beloved artist. Even mainstream magazines couldn't ignore it. Country Living called the comeback one of the most honest moments in modern American performance history. Southern Living described Willie's return as a reminder of the strange existence of an artist who defies all logic of age. In a brief interview after the show, Willie simply said, "I'm not hurting anywhere. So why not come on stage? Willie Nelson didn't become controversial until he got older. Throughout his career, he never shied away from what he believed was right. But at 91, when people expected him to settle down, keep quiet, and become a comfortable icon, Willie chose to make a splash again. Not following trends, not seeking buzz, just being true to himself. And it divided America once again. In early 2025, in a short interview released via a podcast about individual rights, Willie spoke candidly about marijuana. "I've smoked it all my life. I find it good for me, much better than what people are prescribed. So I look forward to the day when every state legalizes it." Immediately, a series of conservative TV stations, blogs, and political forums jumped in. Some accused him of promoting an irresponsible lifestyle. Others criticized him as an outdated cultural icon who still doesn't know when to stop. But for the pro-legal community, especially the younger ones, he became an old flag that could not be broken. But the biggest blow came in February 2025, when Willie made a surprise appearance at a campaign event in Houston where Vice President Kamala Harris and Beyoncé spoke against Texas's abortion ban. Willie did not speak. He simply stood on stage with the two powerful women, waved to the crowd, and then left after a few minutes. But that was enough to make the media machine react as if it had just stabbed the heart of Southern tradition. A wave of criticism rose from TV channels, from the group of voters loyal to the image of old Willie, the one who sang about America, about farmers, about individual freedom without any connection to leftist politics. From the phrase, "red-headed stranger," they turned to mocking him as woke-headed elder. On social media, old clips were pulled up. The times he performed for Beto O'Rourke in 2018, the anti-Trump statements in 2019, all were recreated to portray a Willie betraying the original values. Remarkably, amid the wave of criticism, he made no official statement, no press responses, no articles, no defense of himself. Instead, the May dates were announced at the same time, with the clear headline, "Willie Nelson with Bob Dylan. Outlaw Music Festival 2025. 35 cities." For Willie, the answer has always been in what he does, not what he says. But his family has not been left out. Lucas Nelson, his son, musician and frontman of Promise of the Real, posted a simple Instagram post, "My old man doesn't change. The world changes," and then reacts. The post has been shared hundreds of thousands of times, becoming emblematic of the audience who feel Willie represents steadfastness in turbulent times. Around the same time, some blogs were spreading the news that Willie was gradually being replaced by his sons, with Lucas taking over for his father for a few shows in 2024. Many viewers mistook this for a quiet transition, but the night of July 4, 2024 in Camden, all the theories collapsed. Willie opened the show himself, played the intro himself, and invited guests to the stage himself. No one replaced him. No one stood before him. That was the clearest proof. 2025 also saw a covert campaign from conservative media outlets that Willie Nelson should call it quits, because his health is getting the better of him. Some radio shows even suggested that he was prolonging his career with pity. In response, his management released a clip of him performing "Funny How Time Slips Away" just 3 days earlier. No editing, no special effects, just his real voice, live music, and a standing ovation that lasted nearly a minute after the performance. Clips like this don't go viral because they're controversial. They go viral because they're undeniable. Willie Nelson's outspokenness is not new, but in the current climate, when every public act is analyzed through political, moral, cultural lenses, he has become a rare touchpoint between the old and the new. The young see him as a symbol of courage. The old, even if they disagree, must admit he does not go with the wind. And that, at 91, is a different kind of courage. without words, without explanation. Keep contributing. After nearly a year of treatment and rehabilitation, Willie Nelson did not return to a nursing home. He returned to the schedule of a professional artist, more precisely, of an artist who never rests. The Outlaw Music Festival 2025 tour is the clearest proof: 35 cities, nearly 50 shows, large stages, audiences of tens of thousands each night. Willie is still the opening act, still performing in full, not shortening the set list. This year's tour is not a symbolic reunion or a big tree debut. It is a schedule of intensity that many young artists must consider. Starting in Phoenix, Arizona, on May 13th, Willie and his band will travel through the West, the Midwest, down to Florida, and then back to major cities in the East, such as Philadelphia and Chicago. There are no exceptions, no easy cities. He chooses to go the long way, literally. In addition to the tour, Willie released a new album, Oh What a Beautiful World, on April 25th, just 4 days before his 92nd birthday. The album features 12 songs written by Rodney Crowell, recorded live at Austin Sound. What's remarkable is not the quality of the mix or the thickness of the recording, but Willie's own voice. No auto-tune, no compression. His voice shows all the limitations of age, but still retains a warm tone, long sustain, and clear lyrics, something that even non-country fans must acknowledge. The album's single Midnight Light quickly climbed to the top 10 of Billboard's Adult Alternative chart. NPR described the song as a late-night whisper from someone who's seen everything fall apart, but still chooses to love life. The reception from audiences exceeded even the production team's expectations. The album's vinyl sales were sold out in the first 4 days of its release, forcing the record label to urgently reissue it. Not stopping there, Willie and his team are planning a series of small private shows at the end of the year, performed at old theaters, renovated cinemas, and limited spaces under 500 seats. These shows will be acoustic, without big bands or elaborate stage lighting. The goal for Willie to tell each story associated with each song directly, without an MC or reporter. This is his personal wish, proposed since the end of 2024 after recovering from a serious illness. Farm Aid 40 in September 2024 was another milestone. While co-founders Neil Young and John Mellencamp made guest appearances, Willie remained the host and headliner. He shared the stage with new age names like Casey Musgraves, Zach Bryan, and Tyler Childers that night. The atmosphere wasn't a tribute to a legend, but a stage where generations stood side by side. Younger artists weren't tasked with carrying on the legacy because Willie was still there, writing his own chapter. Every time Willie steps on stage, people don't see an old man fighting against time. They see a man who chooses to work, not for fame, not for money, not for duty, but because he can. He will do it. At 91, the concept of being allowed to rest has no place in his professional thinking. The guitar is still by his side. The rhythm is still steady. The audience is still packed. For Willie, that is enough to keep going. Life behind the scenes. Willie Nelson's life was more than just the stage, the instruments, and the chart-topping hits. Behind the fame were losses, conflicts, and fatal blows that, if not for his courage, would have stopped him decades ago. Those who know Willie only by his current image may see a resilient old man, but to reach 91, he has survived more than any tour. In 1991, his son, Willie Nelson, took his own life at the age of 33. He hanged himself. Willie was the product of Willie's first marriage to his first wife, Martha Matthews, a relationship that Willie himself described as physically and emotionally brutal. Willie grew up in chaos, drug addiction, living in the shadow of his famous father and an unstable family. After Willie's death, Willie had a huge void in his heart that he rarely spoke about. But in many of his recordings in the years that followed, His voice changed deeper, more restrained, and filled with a quiet sadness that had never been there before. Also in 1991, Willie was hit with a 16.7 million tax bill from the federal government, stemming from nearly a decade of bad investments and financial malpractice. His assets were seized, and his music rights were frozen. Faced with complete bankruptcy, Willie took the unthinkable route, releasing the album The IRS Tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories, with all proceeds going directly to the IRS. He also toured for the next 2 years to make ends meet. No debt forgiveness, no lawsuits, no blaming financial advisors. He used the very thing that made him famous music to make up for every penny. In his private life, his first marriage to Martha was not only contentious, but also extremely violent. She beat him with a broom handle, threw objects at his head, tied him up with bed sheets, and threatened him with death. This truth only became public when Willie was in his 80s, in a rare interview where he confirmed what had long been rumored. Without evasion or resentment, he simply said, "It's a part of life I've lived through, and I'm here because I lived through it." Willie's health has been unstable for decades. He was diagnosed with COPD, a chronic lung disease, in the early 2000s. He had previously suffered a collapsed lung while on tour in 1981, requiring emergency hospitalization. He also had type 2 diabetes, multiple bouts of pneumonia, and signs of declining mobility as he aged. During a 2019 show in San Diego, he withdrew after the first song due to difficulty breathing and had to be put on a ventilator backstage. But just 3 nights later, he reappeared in Las Vegas, saying nothing, quietly singing the same familiar songs, ending the show with a slight smile. Behind Willie's unbroken life is Annie D'Angelo, his 4th wife, his companion of nearly 35 years. Annie is not only his life partner, but also his manager, his healthcare provider, his tour logistics manager, and his balance during every period of turmoil. In 2024, Lucas Nelson, their son, said in an interview, "My mother is not just the reason my father is alive. She is the reason he can continue to be Willie Nelson." Willie Nelson has never tried to create an image that is clean, perfect, or iconic in the way the media expects. His life, from children to marriage, from money to illness, is a series of failures arranged in order to survive. And that is what makes his music honest. The songs are not about beautifying a life, but proving that sometimes survival is the greatest victory. Living heritage. Willie Nelson is more than just a prolific artist. He is one of the few who has been able to move through every era of modern music and still remain at the center of it. From vinyl, cassette, CD, to digital platforms and social media, he has never been left out. And at 91, when many thought he was the last chapter of a legend, the reality is he is still writing. In 2023, his 90th birthday concert at the Hollywood Bowl was neither a tribute nor a nostalgia. Snoop Dogg took the stage to smoke pot with Willie. Casey Musgraves sang a duet in a bright red dress. Neil Young, Keith Richards, and Chris Stapleton played Highwayman side by side as if no time had passed. It wasn't a tribute to a legend whose career had ended. It was a confirmation that Willie Nelson, at 90, was still keeping the beat. Shotgun Willie 1973 image, long hair, piercing eyes, unbuttoned denim shirt, was once a symbol of country rebellion. His current image, white hair, gaunt face, slow walk, is now a symbol of resilience. That change does not lessen the symbolic weight. On the contrary, it shows the depth of an uninterrupted artistic life. While many artists are remembered for their recordings, Willie Nelson is creating a new legacy. Oh, what a beautiful world is more than a collection of songs. It is proof that emotions, thoughts, and desires persist, even when the body begins to break down. None of the songs on the album address aging in a lamenting way. Instead, the lyrics are sober, unpretentious, and chillingly accurate. Young audiences don't come to Willie because of tradition. They come because they feel he speaks the same language. On YouTube, clips of his recent performances have garnered millions of views, with comments like, "I'm 22, and I don't know why I cry when I hear you sing," or, "Your voice isn't perfect, but it hits me where it hurts." This isn't sympathy. This is connection. If you heard Willie as a kid, saw him on the radio, or just learned about him today, hold on to that feeling. Like and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that time doesn't extinguish the fire in a person. And if you want to hear more stories like this, you know what to do.